All right, hello, metal maniacs. It's the Meista from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. I am absolutely chuffed. I think I got that right.
Yeah,
To
that's
be
that's that's what we say in England. Yeah.
absolutely chuffed. I am chatting with the one and only, the indelible Mr. Lee Payne, of course, bass player, founding member, mastermind behind the legendary Cloven Hoof. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Good to be here, Victor, and great to talk to you.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited to be chatting with you. So, I think the big news or the big thing is I know we chatted a little while ago, and it sounds like you are in the process, or maybe have just finished up the process of working on a brand new Cloven Hoof album. Is that accurate?
Certainly are. Yeah, it's very much sort of back to sort of the roots, really. I mean, with
Mm,
the last sort of three albums, they all fitted together very nicely. I think
yeah,
a lot of people kind of look at it as they're sort of more sort of a power metal albums, but then again, I think a lot of people consider us one of these sort of pioneers of power metal anyway,
yeah,
because
agreed.
when we first started off, there was nobody sounding sort of exactly like us. I think because under the hood, I think because of our epic storylines and the multi-time changes and everything that we had, we kind of sort of fitted in there just as much sort of Rush with a link between sort of hard rock and sort of prog rock like with Genesis. I think
Yeah,
we've kind of fit in there between sort of Rush and heavy metal because we had all the epic storylines that a prog band would have, and sort of different sort of time changes, but we were aggressive heavy metal.
yeah,
So this has sort of evolved into this term they call power metal now. So we were always power metal, I guess. But what we've decided to do is make a conscious sort of effort to really kind of capture the our roots, really, the new wave British heavy metal roots. And it's very sort of like the first album. Well, all the albums have got their own unique identity, I think.
yeah.
But the first album had a certain sort of darkness, and the new album sounds quite kind of sort of satanic, really. And
Nice.
I think a lot of our fans are going to love this because a lot of them going, the best market research you can possibly do for a band is, when you go into the shows, don't lock yourself away. Get out there, meet the fans,
Yeah,
and we love doing that because they're our kind of people anyway. But the fans, they'll just tell you what they love about the band and stuff, and it's good for us because we'll pose for them with the selfies and signing autographs. But it's great to hear their take on the band, and what they really love about the band.
right.
And for the longest time, really, they were sort of been telling me what they do really love about the band. And the one thing that keeps sort of coming back, and that's how much they really love that first album,
Hmm.
and they really love Sultan's Ransom, and they really love Dominator. So the last three albums, I decided to really explore the Dominator concept again, because why don't you bring back the Dominator? So I did that, and the hardest thing was thinking of a suitable story,
Yeah,
and this new album is kind of catered for the ones that really love that first album, and we really wanted to get back to get that sort of raw new wave of British heavy metal kind of sound. There's far too much sort of, I don't know, studio trickery going on. We just wanted the band like recorded sort of live in the studio to try and capture the sort of live energy of the early days. And we've done that, and it's sounding incredible. There's Harry's recorded six of the vocals. He's got another four songs to do, but
okay,
all the music's finished and everything,
nice.
So, but I think it's just going to blow people's socks off. It sounds so heavy already, and it's
Nice.
not even mixed yet. So it's a really exciting album.
I can't wait to hear it. I'm very
Yeah.
excited to hear it. Do you have and maybe it's too early to at this point, but do you have a target date, a target release date? Are you kind of where you?
I'd love it to come. I'd love it to come out this year, but with sort of experience and being in this business all these years, they come out when the record label has got the window for it. So they know I would like it out this year, but we'll have to see how it goes. But I'm absolutely dying for everybody to hear it. I mean, it's like every single track works really well live, you know, like, and I'd like to play the whole album really live because the songs work so well. They're really sort of more sort of stripped back, short and more concise. Really, there isn't so many like big epics on there. There's probably just the one. We decided to really make it all sort of high energy and sort of dark metal kind of thing.
Nice.
And you know, I'm really excited with it. I'm going in the studio on Monday actually, just to go over some of the mixes and stuff. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Nice.
It's an album I think I'm going to play a lot, you know, when it's finished. So
excellent. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Do you have a working title at this point?
It's either going to be called Sabbath Stones. Actually, that track is a little bit concepty, I suppose. And it's either that or Heathen Cross. It'll be, you know, whichever one I like the most. But yeah, there's a little bit of storyline to it. But it's not an actual set out to be a concept piece like Dominator was, or the one side of the last couple of albums. You know, that's an elaborate story. But there is a kind of mini kind of storyline within a few tracks, you know, so they fit together really well.
Very cool.
It's coming, and I think the fans are going to love it. Yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah, that's one thing I've always loved and respected about your music is that, yeah, there is a lot of diversity, and each album is its own thing. Which, you know, even though you'll have some, you know, some concepts that travel on, but I think, yeah, going from album to album, they all have their own identity and their own sound. And, you know, especially, you know, like you mentioned, you know, with that first album, that very dark, very heavy. And that's, I think, what really attracted me to Cloven Hoof originally was you did not sound anything like the other bands at that time, you know, the other British bands, you know, because there were a lot of, you know, and nothing against any of the bands. I think there were a lot of people trying to emulate the Iron Maiden sound. You know, you look at like Tokyo Blade, they were kind of trying to sound a lot like Iron Maiden, and Cloven Hoof had its, I mean, you guys had your sound, like nobody sounded like that. And, you know, it was kind of dark, it was aggressive, it was progressive, it was, you know, really fascinating. And I think you perpetuated that artistically throughout the years, which
we've always had our kind of sort of intrinsic kind of like identity, and we just try and build on it, because we've got quite a wide bandwidth really with our songs. You know, we'll have the sort of the epic ones, and we'll have more sort of immediate ones, but there's always that sort of epic-y kind of feel with us. And as I said, I think it's because, you know, under the hood we're probably a prog band, but we're really aggressive. So I think that's our trademark sound really.
I agree. And I love the fact that, kind of along those same lines with not just the sound, but lyrically, you know, it's along those progressive lines where you always had kind of this fascination with science fiction and the occult. And, you know, just I think another piece of why I was so attracted to the band from, you know, the beginning was just really fascinating lyrics. And it wasn't just the, you know, kind of the, you know, I think unfortunately with some metal, that's just that, you know, adrenaline, you know, macho man kind of stuff, where you had very thoughtful, interesting lyrics, you know, like Rush and bands like that. You know, you're, you know, really fascinating concepts and would make you think. And I think for me personally with Cloven Hoof, it's never background music. It's always, I have to sit down and listen. You know, I've tried to, you know, I've been doing things and I have Cloven Hoof playing in the, you know, in the background, and then I end up not doing what I was doing because I sit down. I'm like, I need to listen to this. So
thank you so much. You know, like a few people's called sort of thinking man's metal band, you know, which hey, I'll go with that. That's really good. But that's brilliant. You know, it's like people like yourselves and the fans. It's fantastic when people totally get what you're about. And you have that's what we are. And when people really get it, you know, it just makes you feel sort of really sort of proud and humbled, because, you know, there's so much music out there, but, you know, I do spend a lot of time, you know, with the storylines and trying to make it not just a load of guitar riffs and, you know, the macho man thing, as you say. I want to get people sort of thinking about things, and take the album like Dominator, really. I mean, the germ of that album, when I thinking they had scientists and they cloned an ear on the back of a poor little mouse, like, I mean, he kind of to Frankenstein. And I was thinking, so, just because they can do this, should they do that? There's a whole load of questions, of ethics and morals. Should you play Frankenstein like that?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, if you take it, to the end result. So what if somebody's like going to clone someone and they just turn out like to be like super evil? So what I did, I sort of set it kind of in the future, the Dominator album, and imagined a super scientific race, and they wanted to create the perfect organic life form, and it was supposed to be like the perfect being, but the actual silicon seed got contaminated. So instead of the perfect organic life form, they ended up with like a monster, and nature has a way of kind of biting you in the ass anyway, doesn't it? Then this super intelligent sort of creature plugs himself into the computer banks, takes over all the machines, and enslaves his world, and then he carves out an empire kind of thing. So really, the theme of that album is the dangers of genetic engineering. Really, it's like how far are they going to go with it. So, and same with AI right now. Where's it going to lead? Is it going to end up with a Terminator kind of situation? It's not hard to imagine that it could do.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, it's like those sort of warnings, at least I put it in the Dominator album a long time ago.
Yeah. That's what's amazing. I mean, yeah, that was 40 years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh my
it's
God.
still so relevant. Yeah, lyrically, it's so, I mean, musically, it's definitely relevant, but I think, yeah, lyrically, it's very relevant to today's standards. And I love the fact that you've continued that storyline. And you mentioned, so I was curious about, because I know with the most recent album, Time Assassin, that continues some of that story.
Yeah, certainly. We've got some the new one. What I did, like on the Age of Steel, the fans were going, "Why don't you bring back the Dominator?" And I just needed a strong enough kind of storyline, and that's what took the most time to get that together. Once I had the sort of storyline, I was thinking, well, we could do Dominator 2, have it self-contained, but I thought it might be quite cool spreading it over a couple of albums, rather like Rush did with the on Farewell to Kings, with the Inter and Hemispheres and Cygnus. It's nice that they kind of let in. So I decided to do that. So I had the sort of the Age of Steel album. That's got the Dominator sort of he's been reincarnated, and it was like his rise of his sort of empire again, building it up. And Time Assassin was always going to be about sort of his fall. So Age of Steel, sort of the rise of the character and fall. And so the kind of storyline I came up with for it on Age of Steel, they kind of bought the disciples of the sort of cosmic sort of dictator dominator character. They kind of brought him back with sort of super science and like an occult means, and then he basically takes back his empire kind of thing. So for the Time Assassin album, which was going to be okay, the concluding part of the story, how do you kill him off once and for all if you can bring him back with occult means and science? So I came up with the concept of having an assassin kind of figure, almost like a ninja kind of character that's got to assassinate him. But the thing is, he's got to go back in time to do it, to make sure he was never born, to destroy the Dominator's timeline forever. And the story had an added sort of bonus with, I was thinking, well, if the timeline ends, it's like the ultimate kamikaze mission. What sort of super soldier would go back knowing everything he ever knew, everything that existed would end, and his sacrifice is not going to mean anything because no one's going to know he did it. He's going to carry out that mission. So it was quite an interesting kind of concept. So at the end of the day, true to soldier form, he obeys his orders and he takes a shot and he takes out the Dominator, and that's it. It's just the the end of the Dominator once and forever. It would make a great film, the whole Dominator saga.
I
Like
think
it would be
so.
an
Yeah.
amazing kind of somebody should do it. I think it would be really really cool.
I agree. I think it would be amazing, and especially I like the. I mean, you've always had amazing artwork on your album covers, and and in fact, I've got the Time Assassin right here on vinyl.
He did a good job, didn't he? What
Fantastic.
happened was I kind of sent him, as I'll do with all the albums, I'll send a kind of a sketch how I imagine the Liquidator, the assassin, on that album, and the artist, it's Gallier, I think it is. I hope I haven't pronounced his name wrong. He did a fabulous job. Like he took what I did and he sort of knocked it out the ballpark, really. But it's a great cover, isn't it?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's kind of this ninja, but this very futuristic.
Super soldier, yeah, the ninja
very cool
kind of thing. Yeah,
yeah, and it's such a great album.
Thank you
since I purchased it, because it came out this last year. In 2022, and it's just phenomenal. It's what I love about it is, I mean, obviously there's the storyline, but it's a very diverse album. Like, each song is very diverse from one another, and as you said, there's definitely that power metal vibe to it, but then there's kind of a thrash metal. There's some, the opening track is really thrashy in a lot of ways, and then After Forever, which is this wonderful ballad. Yeah, and just I love the diversity.
Like to mix it up, I guess. But the thing is, I originally, like with a band, I mean, I think all the time changes in the keep the music kind of interesting. There were really good players in the band. That the first sort of incarnation of Cloven Hoof, like they were really really great musicians,
Yeah.
And I realised I've got to keep it interesting, otherwise we're going to get bored, so. I always wanted us to have a lot of sort of depth and a lot of sort of layers, and I didn't want it to sort of bring out the same song. Some bands make careers out of basically 57 ways of playing the same song, isn't it? And I would get bored myself. So you kind of have to, well, for a start, really, I think with music, you have to be very sort of single-minded and playing the music you genuinely love yourself, because it'll reflect that when people hear it. It's going to have the conviction. These people really mean this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's generally the music I like to play myself, and I've got to keep it interesting for myself, like musically as well as a musician. So that's why I try to inject a lot of sort of layers and time changes and stuff to always keep it interesting, keep them guessing, really, because I hate sort of safe albums. I want to sort of, I've heard that track, but the rest of them are like that as well. I get bored really quickly, and as you say, it's like the one side, like on Time Assassin, is the concluding part of the Dominator story, but the self-contained songs, you got like Beltane Fire and Highwayman and Tokyo Nights and Carnival of Lost Souls, and they've all got their own identity and different storylines, I consciously just try and keep it interesting lyrically as well.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it reminded me, in fact, what I thought was cool about this, and it doesn't sound the same, but it just kind of that same idea of like 2112, like Rush 2112, where you have the concept on the first side, and then the second side is just single songs, their own stories, their own things. And I really love this album a lot. I listen to it.
I adore Rush as well. Oh my God. Yeah. I saw their very first tour of England, and I was blown away because there was only about like 30 of us in there. It holds like thousands, and we were that lucky. And there was a writer really called Jeff Barton, and he kind of single-handedly really started the sort of the new wave of British heavy metal. And I used to read his stuff, religiously, and he mentioned like Rush, and he wrote them a rave review, and I think it's the most I ever paid for an album. I got 2112 on import, and I was just blown away. And Rush were actually touring the UK within a couple of months of me buying that.
Oh wow.
So not many people really knew about Rush, and I was you literally being able to sort of stand around sort of watching each musician. It was such Well, I learned so much, you know, like it's like my sort of rock school for me. That was, you know, I'd watch Alex, and then, you know, watch Geddy and Neil, you know, and each one was just out this world. And on that very first tour, the 21-12 tour, they did Xanadu. They go, this is a future track we're going to bring out, and they actually played Xanadu, and they were sublime, you know. Like, so I love that band so much. So they were a huge influence on me, and really, you know, like if I had to sort of mention sort of one band who were the biggest influence, they probably were. But you know, we've got the sort of heaviness as well, you know. But you know, they certainly blew me away when I saw them. You know, unbelievable.
Kind of circle back. So I was curious about you know, you mentioned Rush's, you know, the influence of Rush. What are some of the other bands? And that's the thing that I think is important to note is, you know, you're the bass player, but you write all of the music, you write all of the lyrics. You are Cloven Hoof. Like, you are the mastermind behind, and you always have been from the day one. So I was curious, like, yeah, who are your influences as far as bass playing and as far as song?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, when I first started, I learned guitar first, so that was great. You know, so writing songs, I always write with the guitar. You know, first of all, I think of melody lines, and I write lyrics, and then I make the music fit. You know, it's kind of weird. A lot of people don't write like that, but you know, a lot of the classical composers that they write off themes, really.
Right.
And I sort of understood that, you know, and I wanted to have a storyline, and I'm going to make the music fit the lyrics rather than the other way around. Nice. So that's just my way of you know, that's why I'm probably different, really. A lot of people, a lot of bands, you know, I write that way. Yeah, but in terms of bass players, I always idolized Chris Squire out of Yes, to be quite honest. And Geezer Butler too, out of Black Sabbath, you know. Massive influence. And I love the twin guitars of Wishbone Ash and Thin Lizzy in particular. Thin Lizzy were amazing. And they were quite a big influence as well, you know, because you know, there was twin harmonies, and then you sort of like the aggression of sort of Black Sabbath and different time changes. Yes, I mean, I can probably look at my influence, and I can, you know, that's exactly why we ended up like this, really, because you know, with such amazing bands around to be influenced by, you know, like to be able to sort of that was just incredible foundation for me, and they're incredible music, and it kind of rubs off, you know. So I suppose where we come from as well, you know, it's like in the area there's like the local bands would have been like sort of Judas Priest, and Robert Plant used the same rehearsal rooms, Holy Joe's, and you had like Judas Priest and Robert Plant and an English band. You would have heard of Slade. Have you heard of Slade?
Oh yeah, I love Slade.
Yeah. And we're all from exactly the same area, really, within about 5 miles. So I don't think Cloven Hoof could have come from anywhere else except this part of the West Midlands, you know. Maybe it's something in the atmosphere, you know, like, or in the water or something, but it's got that sort of dark sort of feel, you know. And a lot of people around the world, I probably think heavy metal probably invented like in this part of the world, you know, like with Black Sabbath. You know, there was like rock, but Black Sabbath were sort of definitive sort of dark heavy metal band, weren't they, really?
Right.
Yeah, Judas Priest and everybody sort of came later. So you know, I don't think Cloven Hoof could have come from anywhere else than here, really.
Nice. Yeah. Environment definitely affects, I think, the that makes sense to me. And what's interesting, I think, to circle back to what you said, and it is really interesting, you know, you mentioned that you write, you know, lyrics, you come up with a concept, and then you write the music around that. And I'm not a musician, but that makes more sense to me than I talk to a lot of bands. And usually it starts with guitar riffs, and then like later the lyricist, you know, the singer, you know, oftentimes it's the singer, will come up with the lyrics after the song's already written, which doesn't make as much sense to me.
Yeah, that's exactly that. Yeah, it's like you know, there's a reason, there's why this music progression should come in. You know, it just makes sense. It holds it all together. You know, doesn't it? You know, the music should reflect the lyrics and the actual content of the music, rather than just being a lot of meaningless kind of guitar riffs, you know, like you sort of like throwing it together. It's like it's self-contained right away. You know, there's a purpose for why these sections should sound like that, you know. So I mean, I just, you know, naturally, that's the way I naturally write. I didn't, you know, there's no right or wrong way, but to me, you know, as you say, it just makes more sense writing with that method, really.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to ask you, so, and it's more the lyrical content than anything else, but definitely some of the musical. But I was curious about, when I first heard Highwayman, I thought of Thin Lizzy. I was like, is this a nod to Thin Lizzy? Like I mean, because it doesn't sound like Thin Lizzy necessarily, but
that's a compliment anyway.
Yeah, it felt like kind of a nod to Thin Lizzy, like especially lyrically. I'm like, oh, this kind of, you know, it reminds me of like Thin Lizzy a little bit. So.
Yeah, well, that's good. You know, subconsciously it might be. I mean, that particular song, it wrote itself almost. My stepdaughter, she's she's a singer at a holiday park, which is quite a long way from my home in the West Midlands. So every vacation she got, I used to, you know, take her to work, and you know, bring her back home, and she'd spend like the vacation with us, kind of thing. But on the way, there's this really sort of dark, kind of creepy road, and we were always passing this pub, and it's called, you know, you guessed it, Highwayman.
Nice.
So I used to drive past, you know, see this pub all the time, and this melody line kind of came into my head, and I went, yeah, I'm definitely going to write a song about a Highwayman going on here. And then I kind of researched the pub, and in the 17th century it was supposed to, you know, it's an old coaching inn, and used to be frequented by sort of highwaymen, you know, like at the time. So I went, what a cool place, you know. But honestly, as I'm driving, you know, the actual song just formulated in my head. I didn't even have to work at it. I used to just get home and then just write it all out, you know, kind of thing. And so, you know, in England there's a clue in the name, you know, Highwayman. It's because it was frequented by highwaymen, you know, like, and like places called, you know, Cloven Hoof. Well, yeah, you know, it's kind of, you know, like way back, you know, like a meeting place for witches kind of thing. And anything with Cester in the name, you know, its origins was Roman, you know, to do with roads, you know, like Cester and like Leicester and stuff, you know, they're always like old Roman towns. So I'm kind of fascinated with sort of history anyway. But you know, in England, you know, places get named after sort of, you know, events and kind of that kind of thing, and history's really interesting for that. But that Highwayman, it was just amazing. That same road, just the whole song and everything just formulated in my head just by, you know, the long drive there and the long drive back, you know. So yeah, I remember it vividly, really.
Yeah, I love, that's an amazing story. That's incredible. I love that. I love the fact that, yeah, the melodies started just kind of, it seems very organic, like it just kind of came. I'm
amazed myself, you know, like, and I kind of you know, sort of, you sort of create it, and you know, then you listen to it back and you go, it's almost like it wasn't you, it was like an out-of-body experience. Sometimes, you know, I'm listening to it back just as anybody else, we go, that's a cool song, you know. I really like, you know, I'm kind of a fan of it myself, like at the end. And yeah, it's the actual creative sort of process. It's incredible how it takes you sometimes, you know. It's almost like being in a trance at times. So you know, I'm just thankful I can do it, you know.
That's great. I love that. I was curious about like, let's go back in time, like maybe a ways back in time. I was curious about your musical, you know, the impetus for you as far as being a musician. Did you come from a musical family? Like, what started you down that path?
Weird. The very first time I sort of got my kind of guitar, my nan was she was really good on the piano, you know. She was like phenomenal. Everybody used to gather around and she'd play piano, fantastic. And I was kind of sort of, you know, with my guitar, I've had it a few months and stuff, and I'm like playing away. And I remember my nan coming in going like, do you know, that's really, really good, you know, like, and I went, oh, thanks. She went, what is it? I went, I've made it up myself, you know. Like, she went, you wrote that? And I went, yeah. And she went and got me dad in, you know, like, you never said he was this good kind of thing. And it was kind of praise from Caesar, that was, you know, because my nan used to praise people very much. And for her to sort of you know, recognize, you know, like a talent there, it was brilliant. But the biggest turning point for me really was one of my friends at school, you know, we're talking about music and stuff. And the sort of bands around at the time was sort of Slade and kind of Sweet, but I always used to like the louder kind of more sort of raucous kind of songs. And my mate went, tell you what, I think there's a few bands that you'd really like. And he said, I'll do you a tape. And I was going to go on holiday. I went, yeah, go and give me these tapes and stuff, and I'll have a listen. And I was pretty bored on holiday, and I sort of in the end dug his tape out and I said, have a listen to this. And this track came on, and it was like a bolt of lightning, you know, like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing I've ever got my dad in, you know, check this out. And my dad's listening, that guitar is fantastic, you know, hey, this is really good, I like this. What's the next track like, you know? So anyway, I didn't know the band was. He didn't write the title, who the band was. I was just like blown away by this most amazing music. And sort of went after school holidays, I went back, you know, and he told me the band, well, this is they're called Deep Purple, you know, and it was Highway Star, and
man,
you know, it still gives. I've got goosebumps now. Highway Star.
Oh yeah.
After all these years, I still love it so much, and especially the arpeggio part in it. You know, it just blew me away. And Blackmore was a massive influence, and I was thinking then and then, you know, I went, well, I want to be in a band, you know, I want to do that. You know, it's a life-changing moment when I heard, you know, like Made in Japan album. And he said, there's another band you might like. And he bought the album sort of sleeve in. Oh, no, this is interested in that album sleeve. And it's on the wall behind you right now. and it's got the, you know, sort of the gatefold sleeve and the inverted cross and this weird, like, poem and everything about rabbits having just gesticulating deaths and stuff. I mean, very, very interesting kind of thing. I'll give these a listen. Of course, it was Black Sabbath's first album, and oh my God, you know, like, is there more of this? And I immediately went and bought the first album, and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, which I still think's their best album. You know, completely blown away. So it was like it was a new world basically for me. You know, like, and then it was sort of Zeppelin, and you know, and then Lizzie had that. You know, Boys Are Back in Town, and that was it really. And then UFO and Michael Schenker's fantastic guitar playing, and yeah, I was blown away. But after hearing sort of Highway Star, right away I knew I wanted to be a rock musician after hearing that. You know, so that was it for me. I went and got a guitar, and then found out all the bits I really love, those are bass parts. so I switched to bass, you know, because, you know, look, the things which I really thought was like super cool, you know, and other people aren't hearing that. They're hearing the guitar, but I was hearing the bass lines coming in, you know, what song's that? It's that one. I don't understand. Oh, it's the bass part, you know. So, and the bass playing is, you know, I realised really right away. It's kind of it's like a science. Sometimes sometimes I mean, I try to play melodically as much as I can. Really, I think that's because of Chris Squire. Really, you know. I mean, but at other times you might want to lock in with a bass. With the bass drum and everything, and you know, it's kind of a science. You know, how am I going to do that? But you control the drive and the power and everything the bass does, and that really appealed to me. So, but it's, you know, good job I learned guitar in the first place. You know, for the songwriting, I guess.
That makes sense. That's fascinating. That's really interesting. Wow, that's cool. I like that. I was curious. So, you know, so you switched to the bass. When did kind of tell me about the formation of the original Cloven Hoof? Like, when and how did that happen?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I got together with a mate of mine who could play guitar from school. He loved all the heavy rock bands and stuff, and we sort of got together, put an advert in the local paper, and of all things, it really was the 31st of October, 1979. It really was. And we're in the you know, to audition this drummer, and you know, it's the first time anybody played this sort of church hall. You know, we're at the church, you know, like, and it was the first and last because people like miles away could hear this, you know, incredibly loud band, you know, like, and we were kind of banned immediately, sort of after that. But the good thing was that the drummer was really great, and you know, in the end we realised we needed a better guitarist. By which time we ended up playing at Holy Joe's, which is where Judas Priest started, and you know, Robert Plant the Slave. So it's sort of it's opposite the church hall, and it was kind of like this sort of school kind of thing, and it was really sort of dilapidated, but the history was great because all the best sort of West Midland bands kind of started there. So we, one of our roadies went and mentioned a guitarist. He was absolutely phenomenal. You know, he said he's really great, and he said, and for you, I think you'll really like him because he's into Rush and stuff. And we turned up, and it was Steve Ramsey, and he was phenomenal. He really was. He was like one of the managers we had. His guitarist H. Kane was Ozzy Osbourne's next door neighbour, and when they were called Earth, they used to support Raymond Froggett's band in the early days, and you know, it was incredible. Well, so he had this recording studio, which we then wanted to record a demo. He heard us right away, and I found the next Black Sabbath kind of thing, you know, like, and he took a big interest in us, and it sort of it was very difficult to find a singer at the time. That was our kind of Achilles heel, because musically we were there, you know, like it was sounding very much like, you know, Cloven Hoof, really. You know, we did a few sort of cover numbers, but everybody liked the stuff I was coming up with anyway, so we just ended up just doing my songs. And then it was murder finding a singer. So in the end, we went to a local radio station just as Rob Halford was doing an interview.
Really?
We thought, well, tell you what, we'll just wait for him to come out, you know, like, and we'll just see the DJ and see if he'll put a mention, you know, but, you know, that we need a singer or something, and meet Rob Halford, obviously, as well. Sitting on the wall, and he came out, and he saw us, and he went, you just got to be a band, you three, you know, kind of thing. He went, you got a demo tape? I went, no. I said, we need a singer, and I'll just wince now thinking about it. But when you're young and you sort of, you know, full of like determination and drive and stuff, I said, no, we haven't got a singer. I went, you do. And he went, just for the nerve of that, I'm going to listen to this music. Wow. And we went in, and we sat and played it with a DJ, and Rob Alpha went, well, this isn't you anyway. This is like 30-year-old seasoned musicians. This is, you know, like, you little kids, you can't play like that. And I went, yeah, it is us. And he said, I'll tell you what. He said, if you, you know, when I come back to this record station again, he said, I want to hear it. If you get a singer, you know, this is really good. And I didn't think anything of it. And he had my phone number. And then about a year later, when we did have a singer, my mom said, there's a phone call for you. It's Rob Halford. I went, no. I said, somebody just pulling. I thought somebody just pulling my leg, you know. Like, I mean, we gave him my phone number and everything, but I thought, you know, it's one of our mates who know the story, you know. Like, I bet they're just winding me up. And it was Rob Halford, and wow. We met in a pub, you know, near the radio station. And he goes, let's, you know, have you got the singer and everything? And I gave him the demo tape. And they were going to be doing the Defenders of the Faith at Birmingham Odeon, and he went, great. He said, I'll give this a listen. He said, I'll tell you what, turn up the stage door, and I'll give you the backstage passes and everything. And you know, I'll have a listen to this, and we'll have a chat, you know. So true to form, I went with one of our roadies, and I didn't tell him anything. I just turned up by the stage door, and he goes, have you got a ticket? I went, no. And he said, you know, what are we wasting our time for? We'll never get in. And the most coolest thing of all time, so there's this darkened alleyway, and it was kind of lit just by the stage door, and nothing at all. Then you heard like chinking of buckles and everything walking down. And Rob goes, do I detect the pitter patter of cloven hooves? You know, like, I went, just genius, you know.
That's amazing.
Coming in, I went, yeah, and he sort of took me into the foyer. They give us some backstage passes, and he said, you know, this will get you to the bar afterwards, you know, like, we'll have a chat, you know. So we watched the set, and it was fabulous. And and like afterwards, he went, "This is really good." He said, "I'll play to some DJs and stuff." And he said, "And I've got Tommy Vance's show at the BBC, so I'll give a copy of this demo to Tommy Vance and see what happens."
Wow.
So I was thinking, oh, that'd be epic, So that was, he didn't have to do that. It was awesome. So, but at the same time, I swear, Robert Plant lives, not too far away. And we knew it was going to be his house because it was the only one with an American mailbox outside. So my football team is Wolverhampton Wanderers. It's Wolves. It's the same one as Planty supports. It's the same soccer team.
Yeah.
And I had a Wolf shirt on. I was just putting the demo tape in his mailbox, and this voice out of nowhere went, "Like the shirt," and it was Robert Plant. Like it turned up. He goes,
Wow.
"Is that demo tape?" He went, "Okay, so let's have a listen." He goes, "Tell you what, I'll give this a listen and everything." He says, "And I'm going to Tommy Vance, right, doing a radio show with Tommy Vance." He said, "If it's any good, I'll see if I can get you a session. Thank you," kind of thing. So after a few weeks, I had the phone call from the BBC. It was a producer of Tommy Vance's radio show. It's a most sort of prestigious show. You could play, you could get on. Everybody wanted to be on that show, and it was a start for a lot of bands, being on that show. And the producer said, "Well, how many famous people do you know?" He said, "Because I had Rob Halford give me this demo tape, and then I had Robert Plant give us this demo tape. So we've got to give you the session, haven't we?" And that was a start for us, really, because we did the Radio 1 session, then we got the sort of radio the record companies interested because of that, So it just shows you what amazing people they are, like to help out, a new band. I mean,
That's
how many
amazing.
people do that? Yeah, they're just amazing, and I can't thank them enough.
That is incredible. What did it?
It's a good start.
That is amazing.
That
That is incredible. That is so cool. I mean, yeah, especially I'm a massive fan of Robert Plant. I love Led Zeppelin, love Robert Plant, and I'm a huge fan of Judas Priest as well. So I mean that's just wow. That is cool. That is really cool.
Yeah,
and
that is
the fact
really
that another one of my favorite bands, Cloven Hoof,
no, thank you very much.
Launched from that. Yeah, that is so cool. That is amazing. I
When
never
you
knew
think
that.
about it, for a young kid, like I was, what was I, 18 or something, like you've got balls of steel at that
Yeah,
age.
it's
Completely
insane.
fearless, like you wouldn't dream of doing that if you actually sat and thought about it, would you? But we just wanted to sort of conquer the world at that age, you're just full of youthful enthusiasm, and it goes a long way, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing that I think that's a good description of you, I think, as a musician, is that you're ballsy. I mean, you've got balls of steel. And I think that's especially, you look at, so the first album, the self-titled album came out, and then the band essentially kind of fell apart, and you were you were kind of the only one holding the pieces.
It was a nightmare, yeah. I mean, the reason for that, I mean, well, I suppose it's like the greatest band killer ever, like it's sort of girlfriends. It's like nothing to do with, how we were as musicians or friends. But, I want to settle down and stuff. I mean, I just got to the stage where I just like, what do you think more of? They don't even ask me anymore. It's just, don't ever put me in a position to choose between music and you.
Yeah.
Because leave the guitars and the dog, and that's it. But I'm happily married now. But that was my attitude always. It's just I just loved heavy metal.
Yeah.
And the music and the fans and everything more than I loved anything else. So it was an easy decision for me. But a lot of people, they don't love it as much, really, and would sacrifice everything for the love of that. And people change and agendas change and stuff, and that accounts for a lot of people sort of leaving the band. But the fact is, I never, the love for metal never ended, and it's still, till I die, I will always just put metal first, really, I guess.
Well, that's I think I've always loved and respected about you is this perseverance that you have, where I mean you were a young man, the band basically falls apart, and you're like, nope, fuck this, I'm going forward, and then you put out, you get a new band put together, and you put out, the dominated with one of the greatest heavy metal albums ever, and you
Thank
continue
you so much.
to do stuff.
Really appreciate it. I really do. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like and at the end of the day, you know, one of the biggest driving forces to keep me going, and people ask me, and it's the fans. You don't want to let them down. You want to keep delivering for them to be like worthy of their sort of dedication, their sort of love. And I never wanted to let the standards sort of drop. I always want, you know, if I thought, well, our best album ever has already gone, you know, I'm just going to chuck an album out. I'd pack it in, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just that I always think I've got something else to offer them. And, you know, and the fans just mean sort of everything to us. So the fact is that's the biggest driving force, really, because without the fans, you're nothing. You know, if people don't buy your albums, I mean, we're not on a massive major label, so all our albums have to count, because if they're not good albums, then, you know, you don't get a chance to make another one. Yeah. So they all have to be good, and that's why I just keep on pushing myself, and I still think I've got a lot more to offer. You know, there's not, you know, I'm working on the album after this one, you know, like it's crazy. So
really? Already?
I could probably tell you more about the one I'm working on now than even the one that's going to come out, or even Time Assassin, because yeah, I'm wrapped up with that one at the moment. So I'm writing another one.
So you're like 3 steps ahead of all of us. That's cool. That's amazing. That's amazing.
It's like chess. Yeah, I need that breathing space, and I got to keep on bringing out the albums to give myself enough time to really, you know, spend time and really kind of, you know, come up with another sort of unique album, but with our trademark sound, really. Yeah. You know, so you know, I'll keep, you know, as long as people keep buying it, I'll keep making the albums. You know, so.
I was curious about the. So, you know, after Sultan's Ransom, the band split up in 1990. And
yeah, that's right.
You relaunched the band about, well, like 11 years later, 2001. What prompted that? What was kind of, you know, how did that?
Yeah, I mean, the same old thing. Unfortunately, I mean, it could have been also different, but I suppose no use sort of crying over it, kind of thing. But when we released the opening Ritual, our very first EP, it got in these sort of Kerrang charts, and it peaked at number 18, which means CBS Records, they're kind of Sony now, biggest record label. I mean, Judas Priest was like on CBS, and Joe Smith and people like that. And so CBS wanted to sign us, which was incredible. And Roman Froggatt, you know, who was like looking after us. He got David Hemmings, who was Judas Priest and Pat Travers' manager. He got him interested, ready for the CBS taking us on. It was just like a dream come true, you know, like it was like crazy. It's like really would have been super big time. It was amazing. And so CBS had they took the master tapes of the opening Ritual, and everything's going fantastic. And he was going to meet the head of CBS in America, you know, like it was going to be for an amazing sort of deal. And it would have just made us like sort of right up there, you know, with all the Super Bowls kind of thing. And we were waiting for this to sort of happen. And then we got the news David Hemmings had died. He died while negotiating the deal. And because different deals he negotiated, loads of different people reckoned that they owned a part of the band. So CBS would have had like loads of sort of legal hassle. And they went, well, who actually owns you? We've had phone calls from all these different people, which we didn't know who it was, because David Hemmings had done the kind of deals with them.
Oh, wow.
And it just left us with an absolute nightmare. So in the end, CBS got cold feet because they didn't want to be sued by all these different people. And I had the most brilliant advice I've ever heard. And he went, Roman Froggatt, he turned to me and he goes, well, I know it's disappointing. You know, it's like, you know, look at this, you know, like you definitely made a big time with this, and it's massively disappointing, but there's 2 things you could do. And I'm thinking, go on then, give this advice. He goes, well, first, he went, you can dust yourself down, keep making the music, keep on playing, and your audience will find you in the end. and I think that's what you should do. He said, because you're good enough, you know, you'll get there in the end anyway. And I went, yeah, okay. I said, what was the second one? He went, well, he said you could find a really, really high building and jump.
God. Wow.
So, okay, yeah, option one it is then, you know, like. But it kind of put it all into perspective then. I was just like thinking, well, at the end of the day, we'll just carry on, dust yourself down. And that's what I've kind of always done, you know. It's not adversity, you know, coming along. It's how you deal with it and how you just you know, learn from it, and then just sort of carry on and fight for what you believe in. And I've always sort of believed in the music, and you know, and I'll keep on fighting for that, you know. And so after this time, and we've got all these out, you know, every time I come down the stairs at home, you know, all the albums are there all the way down the staircase, and it's kind of good because if, you know, so people go, what have you done with your life? I can see it every day as I walk down the stairs, you know.
Got
like
a visual of that.
That's it. And I've got the one little spot for the next one where that's going to go on the wall as well, you know. So yeah, so lots of Cloven Hoof stuff to come out, you know, hopefully. And you know, I just want to thank the fans and you and everybody for amazing loyalty and sticking with us. You know, we really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so much great music over the years. And yeah, I guess, you know, I mean, from the beginning, from that first self-titled album to, you know, the Time Assassin, I love everything you guys have done, and I'm very excited for the new albums, it sounds like.
Yeah.
New albums, plural. That's so exciting. So anyway, Lee, this has been an absolute pleasure and an honor chatting with you today. I mean that from the heart. This is incredible. For those of you watching, if you look in the description below, there's links to the Cloven Hoof's pages. If you don't own Time Assassin, go buy it right now. It is fantastic. Go to your local record shop and ask them to order it. That's what I did. And it is phenomenal. And the entire catalog is excellent. Yeah, like I said, one of the greatest metal bands, in my opinion, ever. Cloven Hoof, huge fan. So Lee, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Victor. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's an honor, and hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, definitely.
And you wait. If you send me your address, you know, like on the email and stuff, I'll make sure you get the new album first.
Oh,
I'll send you mine.
Awesome. That would be great.
There you go.
Nice.
But it's